Hello, folks out there. This episode of the podcast is partnered by Audible. Greg, you know what I love about Audible?
What do you love about Audible,
I
John?
don't have to pick up a book anymore and carry it around with me. In fact, I carry it around in my phone, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. They literally keep thousands of titles right on your phone, accessible at any time when you're driving, when you're cooking, when you're mowing the lawn, changing a diaper, doesn't matter. It's all right there at your fingertips, John. They've got podcasts, they've got lectures, they've got some like health and wellness and like fitness series on there that if you just are looking for something to fill that gap, like you're not getting into a book right now, it's all there for you, man.
If you're a member, Greg, what's cool about it is you get 3 titles per month. The first one you can pick whatever you want. Like I've said, I'll probably start hitting up some of those health and wellness books. And then what's awesome is they have 2 Audible exclusives. Exclusives, folks. You can't get it anywhere else.
It's true. That is very true. So if you guys want to get on the Audible train, you can go to audibletrial.com/JATG. That stands for Johnny and the Greg. Hook yourself up with a 30-day free trial. No promises, no nothing. If you don't like it, which I can't imagine you're not going to like it, you can cancel at any time. But the great thing about that is the books you get during your free trial, or if at any time, those books are yours. Like you get to keep them. You can listen to them nonstop, anytime, all the time.
Sounds like a deal to me, man. So if you guys are smart, like I know you guys are, because you already listen to this podcast, sign yourself up, guys. What do you got to lose? It's 30-day free trial, and it's books, it's knowledge. Gotta drink it up.
It is. It is. So one more time, it is audibletrial.com/JATG.
Hey guys and ladies out there listening, happy Mother's Day. It's belated, but we are recording on a Sunday. So just wanted to say happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. From Johnny and TheGreg. Greg, how was your Sunday? Did you take care of that mom?
Well, no, I didn't actually.
You didn't take care of your mom, or you didn't take care of your wife?
My wife, yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting, and I don't know how to say this without making it sound disparaging or bad, but Mother's Day is really should just be called Grandmother's Day, because like at least for us, like everything is surrounding like, are we going to go to my mom's house? Are we going to go to her mom's house? And like which grandma are we going to visit on Mother's Day?
Where you're going. Okay.
Because you're obligated to do one or the other. Like that, there's no, and so I feel, and Father's Day is the same deal. I mean, I feel like, if you're a parent and you've got kids that are like school age and both your parents are still around and you have, they're not so far away that you can't be like, yeah, we're sorry, we can't see you because you're 3 states away or whatever.
Right. Yeah. You're almost obligated to go over there.
It is an obligation to pick which relative, which side of the family you're going to go to, and that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And
I see
there's one year I tried to be like, this is your day. Let's just do whatever it is that you want to do.
Moms can't do that, especially girls. Girls feel guilt, family guilt more than guys do.
The guilt trip came in, and it was, and then we tried to do the same thing on Father's Day for me, and I didn't. I guess I did feel guilty a little bit, but that's because I got guilt tripped into. Well, are you going to do this? And, I'm not even going to say which side of the family it was, but it turned into, well, are you going to go, oh, you can't come to our place. You must be going to this other place. And we're like, no, actually, we're spending the day like with the 5 of us. They're like,
I'm a dad. I'm a father. I'm going to
yeah,
enjoy
they're
my
like,
Father's Day. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, you make a good point there. It does become and look, I don't think even your parents or Krista's parents, I don't think they even consciously think that. I think it just turns into a guilt trip because you're hurting their feelings and you're like,
Yeah.
damn it. Like, so I get that. I think
We did get an interesting email
yeah.
that was a total attempt at a guilt trip, but it's
Oh,
pretty normal. And so I
okay.
just go, all right, whatever.
Yeah, sometimes it's what you have to do. And sometimes you just got to take a stand. You just got to sit there and say,
Oh,
nope, this is how it is moving forward.
yep.
So
Yeah. It's
good luck with that, though, for everybody
yeah,
out there.
thanks.
That's to
It's
attempt to make a stand. I've tried to make many a stand.
and you lose.
Uh,
I mean,
well, you lose one way or the
it's
other.
yeah, it's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
Either you go spend time with you and your children and enjoy the day and then eventually have to deal with the fallout later,
Yeah.
or yeah, or you
No,
just
I'm
give it
with you.
up.
I'm with you. I remember there was one time on my family, and I'm not going to say whose, but I would clash heads with an older person. I was a kid at the time, and one of my relatives, I would clash. We would clash. We wouldn't see eye to eye, and I was always told, "Look, he's old. He's set in his ways. You just got to be the better person and just like go with the flow of what they want
Yeah.
to do." And I
Yeah.
would like, okay, I get it because I always thought, okay, when I get that age, I'm going to be the one that I want to do this and this is how it goes and everybody has to go with the flow with me. And no, that's not
Yeah.
happening with me.
Right.
It's
I'm
like I want my restitution, man.
it's interesting that I mean everybody's like, well, you're never too old to learn new things. I mean, and you kind of get that piece, but it's the same person that will be like, well, you know how so and so is, and they're not going to change. And I'm like, fuck it, change. Like
Yeah,
that's
I agree with you.
I'm sorry. I
I
mean,
agree. I
don't
agree.
don't don't rag on me saying that, oh well, never stop learning, never stop reading, never stop growing, things like that. And then in the same breath say, well, I'm not going to do that.
Well, that takes self-reflection, Greg, and that's a very painful thing and hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
anyway.
anyway, we're done bitching.
Still, happy Mother's
Welcome
Day,
to the show. um, Greg, I think you're on mute. I think okay, you're not.
I'm trying to mute myself when I cough, so I'm not
I
blowing
see.
out somebody's speakers.
All right. I wanted to bring up something. We have two things. I don't expect this to be a long podcast, but I do want to have you guys understand that next week we are having a chef on, I believe.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
and we are very excited about that. But I want our audience to do us a favor. If you can, anything you guys want to know about chefs or any questions you want to know, either text us that or get on our many pages on the interwebs
Yeah.
and let us know what you guys want us to ask him. I have a buttload already, but doesn't mean we won't take really good questions. So yeah,
You can hit us up on any of our link tree links in the description down below, or you can email us at johnnyandthegregg@gmail.com.
boom. All right. I wanted to talk about one thing, and I guess we're dealing with kind of real life stuff here. We have two things to talk about. The first one is going to be this, and then we're going to follow something that Greg has been tinkering with about talking, and I think it's a good discussion, or at least a fair
Oh,
discussion.
okay.
But this one,
And I do have one more thing after that, so we'll have 3 topics to go over today.
cool. I want to read this. There's only one way to do this is read this. This is from a person on Instagram. Her name is Sherry Chan. She happens to be Matt Chan's wife. And I met her once, and at a CrossFit place, and we had a talk, and she seemed very insightful when it comes to the world of relationships. And what I always liked about what you and I have is you and I have a real good understanding and a real I want to say a passion for being the best husbands we can, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not setting you up for anything. You're looking at me weird. I'm not setting you up.
I know.
I just
feel
thought
like a little.
this would be something to talk about because I think it's a really cool introspect, and I think a lot of people might need to hear this. All right. So sit back, relax. Here we go. She starts with a rant about love. Lately, I've been triggered by the quantity of posts. See that a modern version of the Disney fairy tale. Live your best life, but not putting up with anything from your mate. If they don't do, get you a new love. You fill in the blank of all the advice out there that says some version of this. I realize most people understand how ridiculous this is. It's pretty shitty president and potentially the plethora of bullshit propaganda could lead to a lot of confused expectations, unnecessary breakups, and unhappiness. Truth is, love is exactly that. It's love. It's dark, it's light, it's playful, and it's sad. Before you go setting expectations for somebody else, take a look in the mirror. I think that's a really good point there. We like to set expectations on how the other is supposed to love us. Ironically, they also have their own expectations of how we should love them. I dare you to find a couple where these two expectations don't conflict. One small change in mindset can change your entire relationship. Drop the expectations of how they are supposed to love you and instead just love them. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you're pissed about your person not being the person you thought they were or think they should be, stop. Look in the mirror, give them the grace to be a human, and work on yourself first. I promise you it will change your relationship forever. I'm not saying there's not reasons for people to split, and I'm not saying partners don't treat each other like shit. What I'm saying is our energy more often is on what they should be doing for us instead of how we ourselves can love them better. We want power or control. If I don't stand up for myself, who will? But this is what I want, and I'm not getting what I want. But you did this. I think that makes sense. If you're being truthful and you really love your person, try looking in the mirror, dropping the expectations, and when in conflict, ask yourself, am I reacting like a person who truly loves this other person? If I really love this person, can I drop the ego? It is from these questions and self-reflections that we allow love to bloom into its potential. Try it. What do you have to lose? That's it. I thought it was really interesting because I think that is a great point that I think, personally speaking, I can only personally speak, and I think I can speak for Ursula with this, is that we had to overcome that expectation thing.
Yeah.
That happens in relationships.
So my initial reaction is actually a quote from a book that I just finished. And it's called Heaven's River by Dennis E. Taylor. And it's a sci-fi kind of space exploration, interesting novel. It's the fourth book in a series. But in there's a character and they're on an alien world and this guy's interacting with an alien species and he talks about, the golden rule.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, it's a golden rule. You treat others how you want to be treated. And she's like, the alien's like, no, that's the silver rule. And he's like, oh, do tell. And she said, there's 4 rules. And there was a bronze, there was a copper, silver, and gold.
Okay.
And I don't remember the bronze or copper, but the silver rule is to treat others like you want to be treated. And then the golden rule is treat others how they would like to be treated. And it was an interesting shift because
mindset.
Yeah, she goes on to explain if you treat others how you want to be treated, and kind of the example was if you're a vegetarian and you want to treat others how you would like to be treated, when you have guests over for dinner, you feed them vegetarian food, not taking into consideration anything that they might like. On the other side of that is like if I'm not a vegetarian but I'm having vegetarians over and I serve them all steak, they're going to be like, oh, I'm like, because that's how I would like to be treated when I go out is I want steak. So, and it's just not very thoughtful. So when you treat others how they would like to be treated, that's taking their thoughts and needs and wants into account and treating them appropriately.
I think that's great. I think the only caveat with that would be you have to know them enough to know how they would want to be treated.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's part of it is then, taking the time to get to know somebody well enough to And I think that's pretty common in a marriage is, you don't treat your wife how she or how you want to be treated. You treat your wife how she would like to be treated.
Yeah, or just the expectation. Expectations can kill
Yeah.
relationships. They can turn you, they can get you so mad at a situation where your partner never even knew you felt that way, never even knew
Yep.
that that was an expectation. It was never discussed. And I've learned, and as well as Ursula, through trial and tribulation, that man, expectations will kill you. So open
Hmm.
communication is really important. And I know, guys, everybody gets beat over the heads with the first you got to have open communication. Yes, you do, but
Yeah.
also you have to learn how to communicate. And what I mean by that is you got to learn how to say something maybe several different ways, because usually the first way you say it isn't really the
Right.
the most gentle,
Well,
at least for my nature.
in communication, a lot of people, when you tell them that, they're just like, "Oh, we just need to talk." No, it's not just needing to talk. You need to learn communication styles,
Yeah,
and you need, I mean, which may require you going to that relationship section of the bookstore or the, you know, even self help section of the bookstore, learning about personality types.
right.
And, there's a book out there called Languages of Apology, which is awesome because you need to know your significant other's language of apology. Like, how do you say I'm sorry for them that they actually feel like you're sorry? Because some people, like, you can say, "Hey, I'm sorry,"
Right.
and that's good enough. They go, "Okay, you've apologized. We can move on." Some people, you need to describe how sorry you are
Hmm.
in detail.
Yep.
Um, some people, you need to uh, follow up the "I'm sorry" with like some sort of token or gift. Like
Right.
that's how they feel like, oh, you actually are sorry because you've put thought in now into a gift or a token or something. I mean,
Hmm.
and it goes on, and there's 5 different styles to apology, and you're like, wow. And
Yeah.
if your style is different than your spouse's, you're in for some hard roads until you figure that out. Because
Right.
while you may be like, oh, I'm sorry, and then you walk away, she's not taking that as an apology. She's taking it like
Exactly.
you're not even taking the time to apologize correctly.
Exactly. I think you're absolutely right there. I think that's the part where people say you have to sacrifice for a relationship.
Yeah.
They're not saying you have to give something up. What they're most of the time, how I've interpreted it, is that you have to put away your I'm right, I'm man, and I'm
Hmm.
not gonna like I said I'm sorry, and it's not that, yeah, you did say you're sorry, but just like you said, Greg, you didn't say it in the way that she accepts it,
Right.
or that she be open to it. Another thing that I've learned is that don't apologize and then finish it with but
Oh yeah.
this really upset me.
You got to
That
keep
is
your
a
big butt out of it.
yeah, you basically just canceled out the you basically just canceled out the apology.
Yeah,
So now
that's
she's
exactly
hearing,
what you did.
yeah. So guys, if you get anything from this podcast today, when you say I'm sorry, just say I'm sorry for hurting you. Period. Don't feel like you need to still give your 2 cents of why you needed to defend
Right.
yourself, or why you needed to stand your ground, or why you needed to say what you said, or why you got mad. It's not about you.
Hmm.
It's about mending the relationship. So um, I don't think we've ever gotten that deep.
Oh, haven't we? I don't know.
I don't know. I
You
don't
know,
know if
I looked at how your phone can bring up memories and from pictures and
yes,
stuff that you
of
did.
course.
It was 2 years ago today that
Yes.
we were testing. We were
Yes.
like, how
For the
is this
podcast
going to
tomorrow.
work? Yep.
Yeah. So I think right around this time when it comes out, we're on our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
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 So
Something
anybody
like
want to send us gifts,
that.
send it. We will just send if you just want to send us an emoji. I'm cool with that.
Let
So
us know you're out there. This
yeah.
isn't for nothing.
You know what's going to happen, Greg? It's going to end up being like a Bill and Ted thing. Like aliens are finally going to come down and they're going to go, "Oh, hi, yeah, we want to talk to your leaders." And
And we're
like
picking these guys.
yeah, the president walks out and he's like, "No, no, no. Johnny and TheGreg. We want to talk to those guys. We've been listening to those guys for years.
And then he's gonna who?
Yeah.
Who? Those
Who are
guys?
they talking about? Yeah.
Who are they?
That's right.
CIA
My
showing up at
fantasy
our
world.
door. You need to come with us.
In my fantasy world, we're saving the world, or we're bridging communications. Anywho, so I just thought that was a really cool a thing. I have a lot of people that are in relationships, and I can just see them butting heads and not getting it. And it's not their fault. I don't think anybody ever sits there and I don't remember ever having a conversation with my mom or my dad who broke it down the way you and I just broke this down.
Yeah, no.
And I think that's sorely missed. And I'm going to try my best to tell my daughter that. I'm going to try, but we'll see.
No, I never went to my dad for relationship advice.
Right.
I tried once and it was a disaster.
Yeah.
I love you, Dad, but
yeah.
How do I ask a girl out? You just walk right up and ask her. I'm like, I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, you know what? My dad said the same thing. If you score a touchdown, you don't need to ask them. They just come to you. Okay, Dad.
Yeah. I was a defensive lineman, Dad.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on from that. You brought up something interesting that you wanted to talk about with the I can't say.
The Joss Whedon. So I'm like, you're gonna have to remind me. I don't know what I'm.
Thank you. Yeah,
we bring up stuff all the time and go, like, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So the Joss Whedon thing. So if you're not hip to it yet, we talked about it a lot, especially last week.
Yeah,
HBO Max has a show called The Nevers, and it's an excellent show. It really is. And Joss Whedon created the show along with many, many others. But he was like their lead. Like he was he was what HBO was gonna be like, oh, we've got the new Joss Whedon show. You know, Joss Whedon, the guy that did the first two Avengers films, and
Buffy the
Vampire Slayer. I mean, a slew of stuff.
Yes.
But very recent, well, not even very recently. I mean, this whole thing with DC and Justice League and Ray Fisher, it's been blowing up that maybe Joss Whedon isn't a great guy, and not just not a great guy, but a dick. Like on set, threatening,
tyrant.
Yeah, making unsafe workplace. Even it came out that on the set of Buffy, there was at one time he yelled at Michelle Trachtenberg, who I think was a 15 or 16-year-old at the time. She played Dawn, Buffy's sister, later on in the series.
Okay.
And like after that one meeting, they said, like, her agent and like the managers and even the studio was like, okay, so Michelle and Joss can never be alone in a trailer together.
Right.
And it almost sounded like it was, when I first started, I'm like, oh, was he like going for like a sexual advance or something like that? And the answer is no. He was just such a bully.
Yeah.
That she felt so threatened. And in one of those things, like when it first came out, and I was a pretty Joss Whedon fan. So I'm like, is this just like, I mean, this is coming out years later.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I think about that? Is this just like someone's trying to get attention or what? But then I heard an interview with it was with James Marsters.
Oh, okay.
Nope, it was James Marsters who played Spike, and he was interviewing Jim Butcher, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. It was James Marsters, and he was on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And they were just kind of covering, like, what's it like to be in a CW show? Because they were both actors on a CW show. And Marshall was like, I was supposed to die, like, in the first season, but the fans loved me so much that the studio forced Whedon to keep Spike as a character. And Whedon felt so wronged by the studio that he, at one point, like double lapel grabbed Marsters and, like, threw him up against a wall of the back set. And was like, you're fucking dead. I'm going to kill you. You are fucking dead. Like, just going off on him. And Rosenbaum's like, what? Like, you did that? Was that good? He's like, oh, it totally motivated me to be a good actor. Marsters was saying this. It motivated him to be a good actor so that he kept a job. Like Like, it made me want to act better so that I can keep my job. But yeah, just the fact that a director and a showrunner was like throwing his actors around
Right. It
over
just
a
seems to me
decision
that
that was
it seems
like how dare you be so good that I need to keep you on my show?
right. You would almost think it'd be a blessing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I didn't like Spike until way down the line, but anyway,
Well,
but anyway,
regardless, I mean,
that's yeah, it's not the point. The
the
point, it just seemed to me that Whedon kind of, it seems like you said, a bully. It screams to me head coach of a football team
oh
and
yeah,
it's like an
yeah,
iron, like my way or the
like
highway type.
varsity blues,
Yes,
not like that coach.
that's exactly who I was thinking about when you said that. Yeah.
Where and now this we're at the point now where the players are rebelling,
Yes.
and like Ray Fisher was like, no, this is bullshit. I'm
Yeah.
not putting up with this, and so he started to speak out, which drew other people out, other actors to speak out, and just last Friday, so just a couple days ago, Gal Gadot, who plays Wonder Woman and has been kind of quiet about it, she's like, no, we had an issue, but it wasn't a big deal. In I believe, an Israeli publication or something like that, she was doing an interview, and she started to detail out, like, yeah, he in a private meeting told me because there were lines that he wanted Wonder Woman to say, and she's like, that doesn't fit the character at all. Like, it
Right.
just doesn't seem. And she was like just starting to get ready to work with Patty Jenkins on the first Wonder Woman film. Patty
Right.
Jenkins,
Yeah.
Oscar-winning director,
Hmm.
has made some awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And Joss Whedon then started to just tear down Patty Jenkins as a director, and then threaten Gail Gadot, saying, if you don't say these lines that I have written, I am going to ruin your career. I don't care that you have another movie coming out. I don't care that it's going to be with Patty Jenkins. I have enough clout in this town to ruin your career if you don't do this.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, talk to some of the higher ups at Warner Brothers, and they're like, yeah, we'll have a chat with them. And all she's saying is that it was handled.
Yeah. Actually, I read a direct quote from her because it's funny. I read that on Friday too. She said it was quickly handled.
Mm-hmm.
That's all she said. So I wonder what she said, or maybe you're right. Maybe she went up to the higher ups at Warner Brothers, or maybe she stood her ground right there and said,
It
"Go."
could be. I mean, she was being set up to be a franchise
Yeah.
actor, or carry multiple films,
Hmm.
and maybe she threatened to walk. Where with Cyborg, they weren't really going that route. They weren't going
Right.
to try to set him up on solo films or anything as big as Wonder Woman.
Right.
So, but yeah, and so the question I have, so now that we've covered all the background, we know
Right.
that there are issues with Joss Whedon, like he walked off, or was dismissed from the Nevers.
Right.
Like he worked on like the first two episodes, I think, and then was like disinvited from the set. And so when we hear about celebrities that somehow end up being terrible people, for any multitude of reasons, in part of this cancel culture, which I'm not even sure I like the term cancel culture anymore, because sometimes it is unneeded, and sometimes it's consequence culture, where it's like, hey, you made some pretty shitty decisions and now you just have to live up to them. Do we still enjoy their previous works? Like, do we take away what they've already made because they're a shitty person? And I think it's an interesting balance, because I mean, we can bring up any number of celebrities. Like the first one I remember it coming up was with like Michael Jackson,
Or Bill
and
Cosby.
or Bill Cosby, or Army Hammer is now in the news quite a
Yeah.
bit for his transgressions. Um, so all this stuff, Kevin Spacey, Oscar-winning actor, made some great pieces of work. Do we just not enjoy those anymore? Do we not watch their stuff? Do we not
It
listen to their music?
it sounds to me like you're trying to say, and let me know if I'm wrong off this, but like you're trying to say we need to take a stand and not give these people any more power.
Kind of. I mean, whether they get more work or power is kind of up to the system, and I mean, there's more to it than that.
Right, but
And I'm talking about like
we are
past stuff.
downloading, I mean, yes, I know. So let's say Michael Jackson's still alive, right? Let's say
Well,
he's still alive.
I think that's a little under. Let's talk about Kevin Spacey because his
Okay,
was pretty bad.
that's a good one.
Kevin Spacey,
Right.
forced himself on a young man. I don't
Mhm.
even know how old he was, but I think he was underage.
Yeah.
Young gay man. They were doing a play together, whatever. And so, if he comes back to acting ever,
Kevin Spacey, yes.
Kevin Spacey, do you watch his new movie? Versus, do you go back? Like, do you watch Seven ever again? Do you watch House of Cards ever again? Do you watch, these things that he was lauded for and made great films?
In terms of protest, right, Greg?
In terms of protest, yeah. Do you
Okay.
go back? Are like if it's on, do you still watch it, or do you change the channel in terms of like, no, screw that guy, I can't do it anymore?
I think that has to do with the individual. I know that's such a cop out, but to me, I'll watch Seven again because it's to me it was never about Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey just happened to play the deranged the bad guy. He just happened to play the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
American Beauty, that's one where I could, if you could sit there and say to me like I can't watch it because of what I know he does now.
Yeah.
That one I kind of get because it was all about him. He won an Academy Award. I'm sorry, he won an Oscar for that. Oscar and Academy Award, same thing, right?
There's other same things, yes.
Okay. So maybe I can see more people protesting that, but every time I think it's an interesting conversation, whoever you want to fill in the blank with. There are other people that busted their ass to put that product out. Mm-hmm. There are other people that have worked just as hard or are working just as hard to try to get to whatever level. And I feel like you can't punish them. You can't punish them for that. Like, so for Josh Whedon, if you don't want to watch the Nevers because he came up with the idea and he executed the first 2 episodes, my God, that destroys the people that put the lighting. So the people that are behind the scenes of the costumes, the lighting, the actors, getting them all ready, you're punishing them. You're not punishing him. He's already kind of been punished, like you said. He's already been punished. He's never going to work again.
Yeah.
And if he works again, he's working with and I hate to bring him up, but he's got his comeuppance, if that's a word, to Mel Gibson. He'll be working with Mel Gibson in a C movie or B movie that only comes out on Sci-Fi.
Well, I mean, with a guy like Whedon, I think he's going to end up ghost writing or ghost creating a lot of stuff. But it's like, okay, well, we might pay you probably a lot less because the name recognition is no longer there.
Right.
To create for, television, movies and stuff like that, but you get no credit, and you're only going to make a fraction of what you used to make.
Yeah. Truth be known, I walked into a comic book store this week and I was looking for new stuff to read, not in the Marvel or DC. I just started going to independent stuff. And I came across Josh Whedon comic books, some stuff he's written. And I first went, ooh, Josh. Like I did
Josh.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he deserves his name said right. So. And it's nothing the fact that I struggle at it. Just this is me taking my stand. And I did kind of go, oh well, no, I don't care. I'll just move on to something else.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has to do with the fact of him being a tyrant or him not being a tyrant or me just not being into it. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. But what do you guys think out there? Anybody listening? Let us know at our many places that you can get a hold of us at. Let us know. Like, are you taking a stand for certain performers, for certain people? Are you not buying certain products because you found out the CEO was doing this? I mean, this goes all the way back to Michael Jordan when he found out or somebody said to him, hey, how do you feel about the sweatshops in China making your shoes? And he always said no comment. I think Michael Jordan was lucky And what I mean by that is it was kind of a blissful time to be ignorant back then.
Yeah, the
You can get away with
information
it.
didn't flow like it
Yeah.
does now.
Now you really gotta be on your P's and Q's. The only thing I don't like that's going on is that people will go back to your past, pull something from your past, and
Dig
even though
something
you
up.
have amended your ways and you're a
Hmm.
much better person now, they're gonna punish you for that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
I think if you've definitely shown some growth and development,
Yeah.
I mean, because you've got actors now that started off as like YouTube kids, and
Yes.
you know, if you were recording yourself playing an online video game or something like that, 15 years ago, and if anybody's been in a chat room or an audio feed for like Call of Duty or something like that, these kids are vile. They
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
spewing hate language like there's no tomorrow. And then if you're an actor that was doing that, and then here you are, and they dig that up, and you're like,
Yeah.
you've got to show some growth and development.
Right. Or it's almost like if you were to put an actual microphone on a football field, you don't think
Oh gosh,
Tom Brady isn't sitting there saying every F bomb in the I hear
absolutely.
he drops F bombs every single day.
Yep.
It's like one of his favorite words. I think he admitted it on the Dak Shepard thing. He's like, I love
Yep.
that word. But not only that, probably the racial things that are being thrown at each other back and forth,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's there. I'm sure it's there.
I mean, definitely among like the
The
black.
same race.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that goes back all the time. Um, but even as far as sports teams go, do you no longer follow your sports team, or your are you going to stop watching, if I don't know, if someone on your team is found out to be a wife beating rapist and charges are pending and stuff like that, but hey, he's still on the team, do you cancel watching the team?
I actually know this question for myself. I would say most people don't.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't.
Um, I know that I start rooting against certain teams because of certain players.
Yep.
I know I do that for a fact. But again, I'm not really tied to any team to the point where I will turn a blind eye to certain things.
Right.
For a long time, the NFL was full of,
Oh, the
uh,
NFL still is full of violent criminals.
yes, but they had this whole domestic abuse, and we're not gonna go into this podcast over that. But I mean, because the point of this question was basically, you know, do you boycott certain things because of certain people?
Yeah.
And I'm not boycotting the Nevers. I think it's a great show,
Yeah.
and it's almost the greater good type of thing. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm being just selfish because I enjoy a good show, and it's for some reason lately I've been in this show funk where I can't seem to find any good shows. So if I find something I'm really into, I'm like
You're into it.
ecstatic. Yeah, I'm into it. And I'm
Well,
ecstatic.
I think you hit the nail on the head for a lot of, I think we agree in terms of like, I'm not going to cancel watching certain shows or listening to certain types of music. Well, maybe the music thing, I'm a little more like I don't want to ever listen to Chris Brown again
Okay.
for multiple beat ups on Rihanna.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, I was never a big Chris Brown fan.
Yeah.
Where Michael Jackson's made some fantastic music,
Mm-hmm.
and I do have a tendency to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna not think about that and listen to his greatest hits album.
So to you, it's almost an assault on your moral character.
Kind
Like
of
you're struggling with yourself.
yeah, and at the same time, what I was saying, I think you're right in that I'll watch, and because we were talking about Kevin Spacey, I mean, he's made some great stuff. I really love A Time to Kill, which is a film.
Okay.
He and Matthew McConaughey, he's in that film. Um, I don't want to take away the residual checks of the other actors that are in that film
Yeah.
because Spacey's an asshole.
Right. Or what are you going to boycott every movie that Weinstein had any involvement in?
You
Like,
almost can't. I mean,
yeah.
he's done so many films.
Right. Right.
And yeah, you're just, so I think, yeah, it's to the point now with what's coming out on so many different people. Could you, could you imagine if Kevin Bacon ended up being a terrible person? I don't think
Oh.
he is. I really like Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
He's got great
Yeah.
marriage advice.
Right.
But that game, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, like
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
so many
I know
people
what
are
you mean.
connected to him. Like if he ended up being like a multiple rapist serial killer who's keeping like women in his basement,
Right.
could you imagine? I mean, you'd have to take off like everything from like 79 to now. You'd be like,
Right.
nope, all those
I
we
agree.
can never watch them again.
I agree. Well, again, it's like, especially if it's a classic. Okay. If so, for example, I mean, we all know what Mel Gibson did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm still gonna watch like the Mad Maxes. I'm still gonna watch those
Mm-hmm.
movies. I'm still gonna watch Lethal Weapons. I'm still gonna go back into the Wayback Machine and sit down and watch a good Mel Gibson '80s movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Mel, see, here's where we get into it a little bit deeper. You know, someone like Spacey who like forced himself on somebody, or Weinstein who was like totally abusing his
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
to get laid.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. I mean, like that's, but for Mel, who was an anti-Semite and a racist, at the same time, I think Mel can grow to be like he can grow out of that. Like those are if he
Learn the
shows,
error of his ways, type thing.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how you show that. I don't know how you know can get past that, but it's possible
Mm-hmm.
to be like he can come on. I mean, he has apologized, I think, numerous times, and even I saw a speech by Robert Downey Jr., who was kind of like pleading the audience that was full of Hollywood super folks to say, haven't we, like, Mel's been punished and he has
Right.
grown.
Right.
Can we, like, and he's like, much like you guys did with me. He's
Right.
like, I was a bad boy. I
Mm-hmm.
did lots of wrong, but somehow I've been let back into the graces of Hollywood. We can do that for Mel.
Right. Yeah, I just think it's easier for society to point the finger and blame somebody else. That's where the term scapegoat came.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody for some reason, especially nowadays, it's almost popular to do it. To stand up on your soapbox or your morality box and virtue signal, hey, I wouldn't do that, and I'm condemning anybody else that would
Yeah.
do that. People are really into that right now. So it just reminds me of something that Dave Chappelle said to Joe Rogan, I think this week, and they were talking about politics, and he just said, like, forget politics, man. He goes, just be kind to each other. Just be
Mm-hmm.
kind. He goes, you'd be shocked. He goes, kindness is my politics. That's what I'm doing now. I'm just going to be kind because if I'm kind to somebody, that gains respect. And when you're
Yeah.
kind and you have respect, it equals trust. And if we all just start trusting each other, like he made some great points, and I'm destroying what he said. So these aren't quotes, but if you have a shot, listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because believe it, like if you really listen to Dave Chappelle,
Oh,
guy's got
he's
a lot of wisdom.
brilliant. He's
Yeah,
brilliant.
he's
Yeah.
got a lot of wisdom. He really thinks stuff out, and I really appreciate anybody that can take their thoughts and put them out into really good, well thought out
Mm-hmm.
points. He does a great job at that, and Joe does too, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think everybody needs to do that. So, and that's the other thing I kind of wanted to bring up with this whole subject we're talking about here is that, look, man, I think at some point, I don't know what faith everybody follows, but at some point, especially with the
Mm.
faith that you follow, there's a whole forgiveness part of this.
There is.
There's a
Yep.
whole, hey, he understands his wrong and he's trying to make right. We
Mm-hmm.
should, like everybody did with Robert Downey Jr., accept him back. So if Whedon eventually figures out that, yeah, you know what? I just need to be nice to people. Like the kindness thing again. I just need to be nice. You know, we can't really turn our backs to people. I mean, everybody messes up and fucks up on a daily basis. It's just we're not in the we're not we're not in the spotlight. And I think there's this thing in Hollywood and I think in upper higher societies where because they're powerful, because they have connections or wealth,
Mm-hmm.
it corrupts them. It does. They're only human. There's a great quote, and I didn't believe it, but I, I think the more I see the world, the more I believe it is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. It does. It just you find yourself you find yourself thinking you're above certain things, and eventually you get humbled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think a big part of like I think we need to. I'm not saying forgive Whedon. If Whedon's still being a dick, is he saying if he's saying everybody's ganging up on me and he's playing the poor me card, then he hasn't learned.
Right. Well, and funny thing about forgiveness is, I mean, you can forgive, but and when you talk about my faith, we're talking about the Bible and Christianity. It says forgive. I don't need to forget though. Like, like that's not something I need to do. I
Is
don't.
that okay? I love to fight that. Not not fight it because I know what you're talking about because I do it too. I forgive, but I don't forget. But
Mhm.
are you really forgiving then?
I I like to think so. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just taking taking that influence out. Be like, wish you all the best, but we're not gonna like. I don't need to choose to hang out with you anymore, or something like that.
Okay, so that's a good point. So let's stop there. Let's bring that back to Whedon. So let's say Whedon gets, or he has. I'm sure he was having his hands in many projects at the time. The
Yeah,
Nevers came out when all this bad news. Actually, the Nevers came out after this news started surfacing.
yeah. He was working on it like
Right.
as all that was
So
coming out.
if we were to sit there and say, you know what, we're gonna boycott, like we would have missed out on that. We would have punished all those people for that
Yeah,
one thing.
yeah. Or that one person.
Right. So I guess the needs of the many outweigh the few.
Kind of. I mean, and what's going to happen is kind of the what I'm talking about. It's like if Hollywood could be like, okay, Wade, yeah, you took some therapy or whatever, your anger management, or you're a better person, but we don't need to hire you again. Like we don't need to. Like
Okay, so I guess there's your we don't forget. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
There's your
okay,
yeah.
so
Okay.
maybe in 20 years someone will take a chance on him again to write something and he can put his name on it, or
I guess that's what I'm struggling with. Is that true forgiveness then? If you're not letting this guy amend himself, if you're not letting him giving him a second chance, um, do we really truly believe that people deserve second chances? I do. I mean,
man. Mm.
I know there's, you can't sit there and say, well, I can't. I can't sit there and say, Jeffrey Dahmer, he's sorry. We should let him out. You know, there's always exceptions to every rule and there's always extremes to every rule. I love the whole thing that people always used to throw at me that love is love, when they're talking about whatever.
Yeah,
And it always goes in my head is, yeah, well, love is love until you're loving your sister. Then it's not love is
yeah,
love, is it?
yeah. Then it's not. I mean, the other thing that we're getting at is, I mean, we're not personally connected to any of this. I mean,
No, yeah, we're not.
where the people that Joss Whedon bullied probably have some, and it's not just there's another guy out there whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. He's a big Broadway producer. Same type of
Big bully.
behavior. Yeah, huge bully, and people are like, "You're done." And he's been dismissed from shows, like he shut down his production company, kind of thing.
Wow.
And he was working with like Hugh Jackman, like they were
Yeah.
putting together West Side Story, or no, Music Man, maybe revival.
Okay.
Uh, and now they gotta scramble to get another producer. to work on the show with him. So like to the people that affects, they might not ever want to work with that guy again. Be like, no. Meanwhile, if he produces a show in 15 years, like I'm not going to know that. So that's the other. We might mistakenly watch something or listen to something or
That's what happened
enjoy
with me.
it, and you're going to go, oh, that's them. Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah. Yeah. So I think from this point, I mean, like, just, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
We
I
could
think
just drag that dead horse more,
we can.
but why?
So let's talk about something else.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on? There's a lot of upheaval. This will be the last thing we talk about today, folks, because we don't got much. Oh, you got one more? Let's go with yours.
Okay.
Mine's not that important.
Going back to the young YouTube stars that are just, you look at them, you're like, why do we put up with you? Why do we still? And I'm talking specifically about Jake Paul. So I think he's a POS, but he's really trying to work his way into the world of boxing.
Mhm.
And he wants to be a fighter. And I'm not saying like I could go toe to toe with this guy because he's training like all day, every day with boxing instructors. So, but he hasn't had a real fight yet. One guy he fought was, I've seen him fight twice. Once, his first fight I watched was against an ex-NBA star.
Yeah.
And it was like a celebrity fight. And it looked like both of them looked terrible. They didn't look like boxers. And so you go, okay, that was not entertaining. The second fight was against a washed up UFC fighter. The guy was like in his 40s, he wasn't big in the UFC. Like he wasn't like a
Stylebender, right? That was his name?
Something like that. I don't know.
I think.
And Paul knocked him down. They called it a knockout. He knocked him down. And then the guy, like, it was the 10 count. From the footage I saw, the guy like popped up right away, shook his hand, walked out of the arena with just this huge smile on his face because he got a giant payday. And you're like, okay. So fast forward to this week. Logan runs into Floyd Mayweather.
Not Logan.
No, I'm sorry. Jake.
Yeah.
Goes up to Floyd Mayweather, who's, I don't like him either because he is cocky as hell.
That's actually one guy that we can talk about that I don't like him because of the way he handles himself.
Right.
Yes.
But he's a good boxer.
Oh, yeah. He's good. He might, a lot of people consider him the greatest of all time.
A lot of people do. I don't, but a lot of people do.
Right.
But Jake Paul, their posses like come together and they're jaw jacking each other. And Floyd's like, let's get the contract together. I'll knock you out. And I'm almost certain he will.
I don't think so. From what I've understood, Floyd Mayweather cannot knock anybody out. He can out defend you and out point you.
Okay. Well, this will at any rate, it's a fight that I want to watch.
Okay.
Because Floyd's a real boxer, like a legit real boxer, whatever strategy he uses. And Jake Paul, they meet. Did you see the footage?
Yeah, he pulled a junior high move.
He's like, got your hat, and pulls his hat off of a grown man and tries to run away and gets tackled by everybody. Yeah. And enrages Floyd. Floyd's like, I'm going to kill him. He's like, get the paper. I want to kill this kid in the ring. And maybe outside the ring. I don't know. But it was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous because I'll tell you why I think it's ridiculous. Jake Paul, I don't expect anything less. This guy's doing whatever he can do to get on camera and get views because he watched his older brother do the same thing. But I think his older brother did it better. Like, his older brother messed up one time because I think he recorded. I can't remember which one did it, but somebody recorded somebody.
Logan Paul.
Okay,
Logan Paul
he
went to a
he
forest in
he went to the
Japan.
suicide forest in Japan.
Yes, and
Yeah,
filmed there.
yeah, and filmed somebody dead there. He filmed
And
like an actual dead body there.
seemed, I mean, again, I don't really follow either one
Right,
of them,
right,
but he seems like he's trying to do podcasts and like he
right,
seems humbled a little bit.
right.
Um,
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is you have Jake Paul, who's the younger brother, looking at his older brother making millions
yeah,
doing this stuff. And I don't think Jake is as talented YouTube, Instagram, multimedia wise as his older brother. And so he figures the best way to do this is just to be almost a like remember
child.
shock jocks? Shock jocks?
Yeah,
Right. Back in our day, guys, shock jocks were people that would go on the air and just say anything to get you to listen.
you know, like radio personalities
Yeah.
that would say
And he
outlandish things.
reminds me of that guy. So the who I'm a little bit shocked at is the way Floyd handled himself. He acted like how you would act in junior high if somebody stole your hat. You'd run after him
Yeah,
and get all pissed off. And if this guy took my hat, I'd be like, okay, keep it. If you want a souvenir, keep it. Like from what I understand, Floyd carries a bag of money with him at all times. You can buy a new fucking hat. I saw the hat.
yeah,
It's not impressive.
right.
Like it's not made out of gold. It's not the hat you got from I don't know Frank Sinatra or something. It's just a hat.
Yeah,
Like if he grabs your hat and he takes off, cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, Greg. I'd love to see Jake Paul get his ass kicked because he's picking on, in my opinion, he's picking on people like, let's be honest. Nate Robinson is a great basketball player for his size. I think he's like 5'10", and
hmm
that guy's thrown up 50 points a couple of times in his NBA career.
hmm
He's a guy you don't want to play basketball against. But you took a basketball player and you put him in a boxing ring
right.
and then you knocked him out. Well, congratulations. That's like me. I don't know. It's like Greg, it's like you challenging me to a martial arts competition. What's going to happen? You're going to whoop my ass. I don't know anything about anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And even if I take a 4-month crash course, you're
It's
still
not
going
the
to whoop
same.
my
Yeah.
ass. Yeah. So I'm
And
not
that's
impressed by that.
why I think it because I believe this fight's going to happen again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay to see it. I mean,
No.
I'm not going to go onto the pay per view and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay him the $75 to see this.
Right.
I'm going to want to look up the footage later
Yeah.
because I think this is the fight that, yeah, Jake Paul's just going to be destroyed. But
Hopefully. We'll see.
I hope so.
I mean,
And really, that's that's what I would be paying to see. Is I want to see him get knocked out,
yeah,
like
I like to see
severely
him
knocked out.
do that to somebody that isn't retired or is picking up boxing as a hobby. I like to see him do that to somebody that's like the reigning champion of
Yeah.
something. I don't see him doing that to Bone Jones. John Jones, is that his name? I don't follow UFC that well. I don't see him doing that to that guy. I don't see him
Mhm.
doing it to guys that can like knock you out with one punch.
Right.
He's picking on people that are either retired or are doing this as a hobby or are doing this for a payday. He's not picking on
Well,
anybody.
Dana White, who's the CEO and promoter of the UFC, is like, I'll never let that Joker in the ring. He's like,
Yeah,
he's not fighting for me ever.
right. Yeah, because Dana gets it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you want to try that against Conor McGregor? Go for it. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead,
Like,
Jake.
and that's
Like,
why he's like, I don't know. I think Dana White's got way too much respect for his sport to let him in.
well, yeah. I mean, he's this classic guy that needs attention any way he can get it. Because
Mhm.
here's the problem with all those YouTube personalities, and I think Logan started figuring this out too, was that eventually the people that have been watching you for 5-7 years, they start growing up and growing out of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
They
And
don't
then they
care
think
about
you're
you
the
that much anymore.
Joker instead of.
Yeah. And so now you're starting to try and get the younger crowd that you just lost. And
And
so
they,
you
yeah.
start trying to one up yourself and start doing really lame, stupid shit.
And that younger crowd thinks you're an old man. And
Yeah, exactly.
so,
Yeah. So that's really tough, So that's how I feel about that. You want to end it there?
yeah, we can.
Yeah, let's end it there. So, for those of you that have listened, thank you very much. For the Greg, any last words, sir?
Yes, you can hit like, you can subscribe, and for the rest of your week, don't be a douche.
Yeah. And while you're not being a douche, be kind.
Yes.
All right. For the Greg, this is Johnny. Podcast out, people. Thank you very much for listening. Shout out to Marshall.